going on, everybody? Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training and another Dog Behavior Q&A, episode 116. We are live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So if one of those three don't work, please let me know, or try and go to the other outlet. We are, so all of our podcasts are recorded on iTunes. So please make sure to subscribe to that so that you can listen to me talk about dogs while we're on the road. Hope everyone had a wonderful Cinco de Mayo, as did I. Drank some tequila, some margaritas. Of course it did, of course. So, this is a place where you ask all and any dog behavior questions. If you have any questions about dog behavior, and it doesn't matter what it is, do not be embarrassed to ask what questions are. First of all, I want to apologize for how messy the background looks. I'm doing a little bit of renovating, moving things around and adding things. So I apologize for all the mess in the background. But we might as well get started. Your questions are going to be asked, or I'll answer your questions live first before I answer any other questions. Otherwise we'll go on my email and or my Facebook and other messages that have questions. All right, let's get started. No sound again? Really? Really? How about now? I bet you there's sound now. There better be sound. Let me know if you can hear me. It might just be your speakers, Chris. Or it may just be my equipment again. But let me know. I think we're okay now. Alright, good. Alright, let's get started then. Okay, first question comes from Taylor. Can you discuss tips on bringing a second dog into our home and best practices? Yeah, that can get involved. It depends on how your first dog is with other dogs. If the dog is good with other dogs, then you could pretty much do what you want. If she's cautious with other dogs, then take your time. Make it a point of maybe not even allowing them to meet face to face in the beginning. That'd be good. Shows that you can control both dogs. They need to see your control, and they need to see that the other can actually be controlled. That will ensure a really good start to their relationship. So you'd have to give me more information so I could better lead you, because it could be a very long-winded answer, but I'd have to get more information. So if you're watching live, please feel free to explain further. All right? Thank you for your question. Perfect. If you hear dogs snoring in the background, don't be alarmed. All right. Next question. I've been using the e-collar when I take my lab/pit mix on walks to minimize him barking at other dogs. He's better when dogs are in their yards, but most of the issue is other people walking their dogs. What signs should I watch for to use the e-collar at the right time? Any other tips for this? This question is for Jenna. Okay. Yes. There's plenty of signs to look for. First of all, you want to make sure that you're walking the dog with loose leash. All right, whatever achieve that, that would be good. Loose leash walking first. And then secondly, what to look for. Uh, what direction he's looking at. That'd be a good start. He's going to be looking at what he could be possibly aroused towards. He's not going to not look at it. If he's not looking at it, then you won't have to worry about correcting him. So, first sign, eye contact, and then just look at his overall body. One telltale sign, I didn't mean to say it like that, but his tail, watch his tail, because his tail's going to be fully erect when he decides to want to go after other dogs. Ears are going to be up. He's just going to look wide-eyed, you know. He's going to look like he's wanting to go. And so again, correct the look. You know what I mean? That way you can be a little bit more gentle with the e-collar as well if you correct the look. Because it's much harder to reach the dog after they've already decided to go off on the other dog barking. You know, so try and correct it before the dog starts to bark. We say cut the fuse before it reaches the bomb. That's what we like to say. All right, thanks for your question. Okie dokie, next question. Best way to introduce a rescue GSD dog to other dogs who lack socialization before he does not show aggressive behavior at all. When he sees other dogs, he barks and wags his tail. He also warms up quicker to male dogs, but is slower towards females and dominant males. What's the first strategy you would take? Right now, when we go for a walk and see other dogs, I try and keep him focused on me and do basic obedience with him. It sometimes works. However, if we go into a pet store, for example, it gets overwhelming for him and he barks at other dogs or sometimes jumps on them. Any suggestions will be appreciated. Okay, Manjeski, Adam, and Anna. This is your question. I hope I pronounced that name right. All right. So, well, overall, what the dog is telling you is that the dog doesn't trust you enough on leash. If the dog is barking, doesn't really matter about the tail. And this is going to be just speaking in general, okay? Because there are some dogs that bark happily, okay? But if the dog is warming up slowly to dogs, then that tells me that the bark is probably not something that the dog is using to want the dog to come over for an interaction. That bark is more of a stay away bark. And the tail wag just could mean that high arousal state. So tails can wag, and it depends on where the tail position is. Because if it's a low tail wag, then that means submissive, fear, timid. If it's in the middle sort of tail wag, that means relaxed, happy. And if it's a high one, then it means aroused, excited, maybe even prey-driven tail wag, or wanting to seem as big as possible. And that can sometimes mean a little bit of fear is in there. And so you want to try and gain more trust and obedience on the walk with them. I wouldn't worry about any obedience routine. I would just get the dog to focus on loose leash walking. That's the only obedient thing the dog needs to do at any time. And you may have to correct the dog a lot in order to get your dialogue going, but the dog must stay focused. Now here's the other thing. If you have a cautious dog on leash, you should not allow that dog to go up to other dogs on leash ever, because you're taking a big risk. You could lose all the trust that you've gained thus far, and you could potentially get your dog hurt. So, that's what I would say. I have a YouTube video on how to walk properly the way that I was talking about, loose leash walking. It's on the playlist of Do It Yourself DIY. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Okay, next question. Advice on calming a 4.5-year-old GSD with anxiety in a moving car, barking, crying, pacing, and destructive behavior inside a car. Kennel does not fit. Does CBD oil really work? I'm gonna go ahead and rule against CBD oil. I don't know that it works. I take it myself, and I don't think I've really given it another chance. So maybe I should. Maybe I should say I don't know for sure. I'm not really convinced that it does though. But again, I haven't used it consistently, so there's that. Okay, so in the car, first of all, out the car, you want to make sure the dog knows what down means. Like lay down. Okay, so to the point where the dog can do it very efficiently. Anytime you say, go lay down, or lay down, the dog does it the first time you ask him to do it. If you don't have that, you must work to that in order to get the dog to be able to relax in the car. Because that's going to be the protocol in the car. Lay down. You have to give the dog something to do in the car that will occupy its anxiety. Alright? And you can help the dog out by possibly giving the dog a walk or something like that before you go into the car, because if he has all that pent-up energy, then it's going to be tough to sort of be obedient. Well, it's a little older, so it should be all right. 4.5 is old, and again, you got to get the dog to lay down. Got to. All right. That question is for Cecilia. Hope that helps. If you do not know how to get that non-negotiable down, please refer to my YouTube channel. I have a how-to non-negotiable down. That's what the video is called, How to Down, and it is the non-negotiable way. Very important. All right, thanks for your question. Okay, first of all, let me just interrupt and make sure you guys know that I'm very thankful for all of the referrals that I got for the veterinarians. We'll explain a little bit more about what I want to do. I probably should have done that in the post, but I was just way too excited. But I basically bought all this, podcast equipment just so I could start interviewing people who would benefit the crowd that we're currently serving, and I want to be able to make sure we can close some gaps, because there are some gaps between veterinarians and dog trainers, and it is very apparent coming from the people who call me, and so a lot of dogs get put down because of that gap, and so which means lose their life, and that's not cool whatsoever. I want to be able to sit down and talk to someone about how we can, better define what's what. I had someone not refer or try and, I would say badmouth me on the internet. Someone sent me screenshot of someone trying to badmouth me and the tools that I use. And they use the term negative reinforcement when trying to describe my training. But, you know, I'm not big into definitions, but I do feel like they're important when you're trying to describe something. And what they described was not right. So, on a technical level, between dog trainers, if you're going to use that term, you should know what that term actually means. Okay, negative reinforcement means taking away, so negative, taking away something to achieve a certain behavior. And when they're referring to my type of training, they should have used positive punishment. That would have been the technical, what trainers use amongst trainers when they're describing my training. Positive punishment, because we used prong collars, e-collars, leash. I mean, you know, there really is no such thing as positive only. Anybody watching and believes that it's not possible to live with an animal and not use some sort of adversive punishment, whether it be a leash. A leash. If any of those positive only trainers use a leash, then they're not positive only, because a leash is negative, is positive punishment. So positive punishment means adding something in order to create a behavior. And when you add a leash, that is a form of control, and in my opinion, punishment. So when we're just talking about purely technical stuff. So any positive only trainer who uses a leash is not positive only. Because when you're on leash and you think you can't say no, the leash is saying no for you. The leash is saying you can't go this way, you can't go that way. So it really hurts the dog world as a whole, because it's just a bunch of lies. Positive only never happens. So when you want to describe my training, you should learn. You would have been better off saying positive punishment, because it would have made me look back worse. You know what I mean? Using that word punishment would probably make it look worse. So use that. But then that's actually the right technical term to use. Positive punishment, not negative reinforcement. So, there you go. All right, done with that little rant. I tell people all the time, anybody feel free to, I'd love to actually have a positive only trainer come up on my podcast too. Let's do it. I would love to, if you want to debate, let's debate or discuss. But again, I do want to start interviewing other professionals in the industry. I want groomers. I want rescue advocates, leaders. I want anything that has to do with dogs or horses too. I'm going to start reaching out to all those people, sitting down and having a conversation. It's going to be good. All right, Trudy says, how do I train to walk 2 dogs? Well, you got to make sure you're walking one dog correctly first, both dogs correctly individually first, and then bring them together. So make sure you can have a nice calm walk with both of them first, bring them together, and then after you have that, then you can bring them together. Walk one side, walk one dog on the left and one dog on the right, just to make it maybe just a little easier. And then again, it's more so very important that you learn how to control the dogs on leash first. Because then it doesn't really matter what side they're on. But to start out, I would put one dog on one side and one on the other. Alright? Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Feel free to ask another. Okay, Natalie says, is using a prong collar on a 13-week-old boxer, 13-week-old boxer too soon? He has no respect for a regular collar, just pulls. Yeah, I'd say it's a little too soon. I think 13 weeks is probably a little early. What you could use instead is a slip lead. That may work a little better, but more so than any tool you use, I think you have to learn what the technique actually is and what the mindset to actually achieve on the walk. And with a puppy that young, what you can do is allow the dog to explore what it wants to explore. So put a long leash on the dog, right? Put a long leash on the dog, or a retractable leash maybe, and allow the dog to explore, and you don't follow the dog, because the reason why the dog is pulling is because you're following the dog. And instead, you need to allow the dog to explore, and you go the other way. Start getting the dog to, first and foremost, get in the right mindset by knowing that it has to follow you and not the other way around. And so I'd put a long leash on the dog, and I'd drop it, and I'd walk, and I'd just walk. All right, make sure you're not in a traffic area. Make sure you're not in an area where he can get in trouble or hurt. Best place would be in an open field. But start getting the dog to do what it's naturally born to do. At 13 weeks old, it should be doing nothing but following you anyway. All right, that's the first thing I would do. And then you can start turning with the dog. So once the dog reaches you and then gets out in front of you, you turn around. And then you do that and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. That will transfer over on how the dog will walk on leash with you. So I really like having puppies are very good off leash because they're so uneducated and less likely to explore. So use that to teach the dog how to come, and then also how to walk on leash. All right. Thanks for your question. Next question. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Here. Kyer. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce your last name. Any tips for adding a third dog to a pack? We brought this guy home Saturday, and our two females are doing pretty good at accepting him. But we've had a few altercations here and there. Easily broken up with a spray bottle. Also, we are currently keeping all toys up, only giving them to dogs when they're in kennels alone. Very good. At what point should we be able to have chew type toys be around each other? When those altercations disappear, that'd be good. When they can really start playing with each other and those altercations are not there. But hey, you can help those dogs out. You can expedite the process by letting all dogs know that it's not okay to fight. Okay, and the spray bottle may not be working if they're continuing to do it. The spray bottle works because it breaks it up, but it doesn't get them to avoid fighting. If the spray bottle got them to avoid the fight, then the spray bottle would be an effective tool, but it's not, because it only breaks them up, and they continue to think that it's okay to fight. You want to have a tool to get them to avoid doing that. And then they will get along quicker and easier, and the relationship will be on better terms. And then those chew toys and bones can come about sooner. But you have a growing puppy, so that's something that you should understand, that a growing puppy is going to change at 10 months, going to start feeling himself. All right. The Bulgarian Patriot says, I don't know what I'm actually watching. I was just looking for some good, man. There's some really weirdos on YouTube, you guys. It's crazy. All right, let's continue, shall we? Okay, Terry says, I have a GSD we adopted 3 months ago, who's 3 years old. He has aggression issues. They're not consistent with anything, just very random. How do I train him not to growl at me or my son when it's not any one thing in particular? Along with lunging to bite at random. I'm really worried because he's my 7th GSD over 25 years, and I've never ever had one bear and growl or charge at me. Please help. Thank you. Okay, Terry. We'll be a little bit tough on this situation. Okay. I'll take a drink first. Okay. So, let's just start with something very basic when it comes to animals, or when it comes to humans too. Every relationship, you want to constantly evaluate if there are if there is bad behavior. You want to evaluate how much you are giving the dog versus well, not really versus, I should say, let's just say how much you are giving the dog without asking the dog to work for what it wants. When something bad happens, you must, for the right amount of time, just give the dog what it needs and not what it wants. So don't pet the dog. This is going to be tough for a lot of people to hear. But do not pet your dog if the dog is lunging at you. Don't pet the dog the next day, the next 2 days, the next 3 days. The dog should not be pet, because then you're giving the dog what it wants. And you're actually saying, it's okay. So growling, lunging, biting, very disrespectful. You must, again, start to separate yourself and allow the dog to think a little bit instead of just staying in comfort. We want our dogs to be as comfortable as possible, but more importantly, we want our dogs to have a certain level of respect. It's how you're going to optimize the relationship. If a dog is allowed to walk all over you, you're going to low-key not like your dog. You may love the dog, but you may not like him. And it's not the same thing. You can love someone or something and not like them because they get on your nerves all the time, or they're obnoxious, or they're randomly aggressive. If the dog is allowed to do what it wants, then it is allowed to do random things. But no dog is random if boundaries are clear. If the boundaries are clear, then there's no random aggression. If there's random aggression and the boundaries are clear, the dog should be put down. I'm very comfortable saying that. But because I know that 99% of the dogs I work with are brats. So, once again, you have to start to evaluate how much your dog is demanding what it wants and you're giving it to them. Start to reverse that. Let's shut down all of the things that the dog wants and provide the dog with what it needs. Excuse me. And then evaluate their behavior after that. Okay, this is something that I have to sort of go over very frequently with my clients or people who call me. All right, we have to start understanding that in a dog's mind, they're either a follower or a leader. And they're not that smart to be the follower. I mean, they are smart enough. Wait, I should rephrase that. They aren't smart enough to be the leader. We are smarter than that. But they are often more stubborn than we are. They're often more consistent than we are. We have to reverse those two things right there. If you feel like something is wrong and bad, then you must portray that to your dog. Again, if you think something is wrong or bad, or needs to be done, then it needs to be done. Because if there's no amount of dog training, there's no amount of anything like that that's going to people that are good with dogs just don't like to become complacent or allow their dog to just get what it wants all the time. That's the key. The key is being more stubborn than your dog. We give, as a society, we give way too much to our dogs. And it's dangerous. The dogs aren't happy. That's not what produces a happy dog. Respect is the number one thing. Alright, so I'm just going to say a little bit more about this. Also think about this. Is your dog allowed to jump on you? Is your dog allowed to bark at things in the window? Is your dog allowed to resource guard? Is your dog allowed to bolt out of doors? Okay, I can go on, but those 4 things right there. If your dog is doing any of those, then you want to stop those immediately, and you may not see aggression. Dogs come to me. I get the most aggressive dogs in the state. I get the most aggressive dogs sometimes in the region, Midwest. I have dogs come from as far as Nebraska to come to me for their aggression. And I don't get bit. You want to know how? I do not take no for an answer. I do not allow them to have any assuming behavior. Don't assume when I open the door that you can just bolt out. Don't assume when I open your crate that you can just bolt out. Don't assume that you can pull me everywhere on the walk. And definitely do not assume that you can jump on me. Those are all very disrespectful things. And if jumping was okay in a dog-to-dog world, well then we can probably have a conversation. But it's not. A dog jumping on another dog can result in very serious situations. So that's how you kind of have to look at it. It's very disrespectful. I was just talking to a person who had a dog jump on their 85-year-old grandmother. Come on now, that's terrible. That should be stopped immediately. But look for other lower level bratty behaviors to extinguish, to not get the aggression. Again, that's why I don't get bit. Because I know how to work the dog on a very lower, calmer level to where the dog never gets to the point where they think it's okay to bite. Because these dogs are thinking it's okay to bite. It's not because they were abused. It's not the case. Very, very rarely that is the case. But a dog that bites you or tries to bite you that's coming from a place of fear is only doing that because they want you to get the hell away from them. They're not doing that because they want to, or they're trying to gain an advantage or just be obnoxious. And that type of aggression is also not random. But aggression that comes from a bratty behavior, aggression that comes from the entitlement mindset, I can do this, and there's no consequence for me not to. She may get mad and throw me in the crate, but I'll be back on the bed tomorrow. I'll be petted tomorrow. I'll get some treats tomorrow. No problem. Let's bite. They may be pissed at me for a night, but that's okay. Everything will be okay tomorrow. So if you have a dog that does think like that, the dog is free to bite when it wants to bite. You walk by the dog bites. You try to ask the dog to get off the couch, the dog bites. Your 5-year-old nephew walks by the dog decides to growl and maybe nip or bite. Don't live with a dog like that. First of all, it's pretty traumatic for a person to get bit by a dog anyway. So let's not put society through that, especially kids. And secondly, if you have a dog that has that mindset, you are playing with fire. So we got to get back to our instinct, I would say. Our instincts really tell us what we should do. We just got to lose. Sometimes what we read is very untrue. Oh, it'll make the dog more aggressive. Oh, it will get the dog scared of me. Well, you know what? Let's just be honest, folks. There's a little bit of fear in respect. In the whole respect thing, there's a little bit of fear, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. How to evaluate a good relationship is if your dog chooses to come to you when you want the dog to come to you and is happy coming to you. That's how you can evaluate any relationship between dog and owner. Does the dog listen to you when you say come? Well, then you got work to do. Or if the dog does come to you and it's scared to come to you, well, then you also got work to do. The dog, you should reach a balance, and again, it's not easy, and it does take time. But the dogs should happily come to you because they want your affection, and if they don't, then they could either not want it because they're scared of you, or they may not want it because you give them too much of it. So I save my affection for off-leash because I want my dogs to want to come to me. Okay, what tool do you use to suggest keep the dogs from fighting in the first place? When it happens, it has been playing, going too far. has involved food, which we have been trying to keep separate. The new dog trying to sniff in the closet where we keep the food, or when I took all three out on my own, and the new dog wanted to grab the puggle's leash, the puggle, and the new dog get into it. Then our 9-month-old Dana then went at him. Well, I would try and see what the doggy don't would do for you, or I'll keep them on leash, and or I would keep them on leash, and it kind of seems like you probably need to take control of the puppy. Those two older dogs need to know that you can control that dog. Because the puppy sounds like it's just being too obnoxious. Okay, so correct the dog. You should probably put a prong collar and a leash on the 9-month-old and allow it to drag it. So you can then grab the leash and correct the dog at the same time, and then verbally correct your other dogs if it's not warranted, though. Those other dogs may be trying to, teach the dog, but still, seems like the 9-month-old may be a little bit obnoxious, and you want to create a more respectful relationship between you and the 9-month-old for now. All right, 9 months is plenty old enough to have the prong collar. All right, what about a dog that has bitten because he's became territorial? So when a dog is territorial, this is the toughest one for people to get over, or dogs to get over, but you must add more boundaries on that territory. Whether it's in the house or outside the house, you have to spend more time. If it's outside, you have to spend more time with them outside, and be able to correct the dog's bad behavior. When you are home, the dog shouldn't be territorial. The dog can be territorial when you're not home. That's fine. A lot of people like that. But when you're home, the dog should not be thinking that it should handle a certain situation. It should not say, I need to handle this, I don't feel safe. Because if it's doing that, then you're not doing your job as a parent. Our job is to make them feel safe, no matter what. When we're home, okay? And so we want to have the relationship to where we can say, go lay down. I've got this. You don't have to act like a fool. It's all right. Go lay down. And then your dog actually do that. That's what you want, because that's what you would do if your kid was scared about a stranger coming over. You would say, hey, it's all right. Don't worry. We're good. And the kid may actually then warm up. But you have to do that with a dog too. So I would, again, add more structure in any area where the dog would be misbehaving. So even if you have to keep a dog on leash, or even if you have to use an e-collar on the dog to get the dog to take your word for it. Because your word is no, or come, or go lay down. Those are your words that you would use when they become territorial. And if they don't listen to your word, then you must add a tool in order to get the dog to listen to your word. All right? Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. Okay. The 9-month-old Dana we've had since September. The new dog, we were told, is an adult. He is from the Humane Society, and they weren't sure exactly how old it was. Got it. Well, either way, whoever's starting it, right? Whoever seems like they're starting it, that's who you want to gain control of first, and that's who you may want to keep on leash. The other dogs may want to leave them alone or not, but either way, you have to control. And listen, when you're working with a pack like that, it's very important that they can stop when you say no or stop. They stop playing. So you can control the level at which they play. And if they become over aroused, especially the one who's is the more energetic one. Take the dog and keep that dog on leash and put the dog in a sit for 20 seconds. And I mean, you must hold that sit for 20 seconds, not 5, not 10, not anything like that. Put the dog in the sit for 20 seconds. It will totally bring him back to a calm state of mind, and then you can allow the dog to go play again. All right, but bottom line, you have to get your pack to respect your word. And you can use the spray bottle to get that sit or break up that very energetic play too. You know what I mean? So, thanks for your question. All right, I think we got them all done. Let me see. Nope, got a few more. Okay. All right. So I should say, you guys, right now, all of my training dogs are here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs here. And how many of them have you heard? 0. You may hear them walking around in the crate and readjusting and scratching, but I want to tell you guys that it's important to have a very nice, calm, and quiet household. When you walk in the door, your dogs should not be barking, jumping. Okay? You really want to hear silence. You want your dogs to achieve very calm mindset. All these dogs come to me with various aggression issues and anxiety. Some of them are on medications because they cannot be calm. But if you take a look at them, they're all sleeping. We want to be able to get our dogs to relax when we want them to relax. Very important. All right. I'm going to keep this from being too preachy. Okay, let's go. Hold on. Cheers to those who are having a beverage on this wonderful rainy Wednesday up here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Cheers. Okay, tips for avoiding separation anxiety, especially when a rescue dog has just been rescued. Well, separation anxiety can kind of go both ways. Okay, but this is one thing that there's one pitfall that I observe from owner to dog when they're rescued. Do not let them follow you around the house. You are feeding into the separation anxiety. Do not let them follow you into the house. They need to be comfortable away from you. They need to be comfortable not acting like they need you. So when you come home from work, do not make that dog the priority. The dog should be an afterthought that fights separation anxiety. When your dog always comes to you for affection, don't give it affection. And there are people that are going to say, "Oh, he's cold." You know, that's mean. But it's going to keep your dog from breaking out of the crate, chewing up the couch, chewing up your shoes, going in the garbage, chewing up furniture. So, if you want that, if you're okay with that, do what you want. But separation anxiety is fought or fixed by not giving in to what we would observe as needy behavior. Go to the dog once the dog is calm and laying down and not thinking about you. Then go and get your fix. Because then you're reinforcing really calm behavior. You get what you pet. Don't walk in the door and pet that crazy hyper dog. You're just reinforcing crazy hyper behavior. So some questions live. You're welcome so much. This question is for Pam. I have to use a bark collar on my boxer mix when I leave home because she barks non-stop. It's worked well before, but when I get it out to put it on before leaving, she runs away and won't come. I've tried her favorite treats, but she will not come for anything. All right, so if a dog doesn't come to you, then you must just go get her. As a way to get her to come. But you can also sort of put the dog on, put the bark collar on before she gets the sense that you're leaving. You know what I mean? So just keep it random maybe. Or switch up times when you put the bark collar on. Instead of making it a pattern, dog's like, oh, I know what time it is. See you later. Again, or you can put the leash on the dog first thing in the morning, and then you can easily then retrieve the dog and put the bark collar on, take the leash off, and boom, then you're done. You know what I mean? So those are a couple ways that you can kind of avoid that. But on a very basic level, if a dog doesn't come to you, then you got to go get the dog. You know, and some dogs, if you're consistent with it enough, will not want to deal with you coming after them, walking after them. They'll just come to you. All right. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. Hey, Anna. Chaco's doing just fine. Let's talk about Chaco. Why don't we? He does have separation anxiety. That is one dog that we're talking about has separation anxiety, especially after I've taken him on a walk or I've taken him out to play. If I leave him in his crate, he will bark. You know, so we are working through that. He is very much so warmed up to me, and I would say getting there with the other dogs. But you know, German Shepherds are very, very smart, and so he's getting the obedience part very well. I can tell that you have worked on it, so I thank you for that. Yeah, he's coming along great. He's right now just relaxing in his crate, laying down and sleeping. So, yeah, everything is good. Sorry I didn't get to your email, but there you go. You got a live update. Okay, even when I start getting ready, she knows what's coming and won't come, even if I'm hiding the collar or don't have it yet. Yeah, just put that e-collar on the dog. Put the leash on the dog first thing in the morning. Let the dog drag the leash. You know, when it comes in from outside, put the leash on, let it drag around if it's not too long. And then you can easily just get the dog and it won't be a hassle. All right, try that, see if that works. Okay, question for Annie. Hey Jeremy, we have a pit boxer mix about 5 years old, and her favorite toy is the Chuck It now. Okay, but right when she sees it, she gets overly excited and starts barking at it. I try to ignore it or turn away, but what else can I do? Tell her to lay down, put her in a down when she gets too excited. Put her in a down and then just wait. And you may have to wait for a while. But try and stay as stoic as possible. Try and be like a statue. You know, but you may have to work on those downs separate from that, maybe to help the transition. I'm not sure how well your dog knows that, even if it does at all. If it doesn't know it at all, you want to teach it without the Chuck It. Once it knows it, then you can introduce the Chuck It and use that down, because the dog will do anything it takes to get that ball. If you sort of wait until the dog starts to realize that the barking is not working for the dog. But you may have made a mistake in throwing the ball after she barked and inadvertently reinforced the barking in order to get so in some way, somehow you have to evaluate all your behavior when the dog barks, because the dog barking, when the dog barks, the dog is reading your reaction, and the dog thinks it's one step closer to getting what it wants. If you're not throwing it, if you're turning around, then the dog says, I don't really care if you turn around, you're going to give me what I want. But what if you don't give it what if you do this? What if you start to play, you get to chuck it out, the dog, you bark, you drop it and walk away, or you just walk away. That also works. I mean, completely walk away, and like, don't try it again for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Or go sit down. This is what I would do. All right, I got a plan. You take the chuck it, you act like you're gonna throw it, or you act like, you know, the normal thing. The dog starts to bark, you say no, and down. If the dog doesn't do the down, then you go and sit down and have a seat, and then put a timer on for 5 minutes and just chill. The dog is gonna down. The dog is gonna, you know, really try and figure out how to get what it wants, and only until it gives you what it wants, then you can throw the ball. All right, but it will take some time. You will have to outlast the dog in that situation. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. You're welcome, Anna. All right, tips for getting a dog out energy on rainy days when we are stuck inside and can't go for a walk or play fetch outside. Who can't go outside? You or the dog? Dogs can play in the rain. Hell, we play in the rain. Go outside with your dog. Doesn't matter if it's raining. And depending on how old the dog is, the dog doesn't have to play every day. But if you've got a young pup, if you've got an adolescent, if you've got a high energy dog, put some rain gear on and go outside and walk for a dog. It's actually quite peaceful. It's actually very peaceful. I would encourage you to do so. But that's what people say. Oh, it's snowing. Oh, it's raining. So what? Dogs will get along. I mean, dogs will go outside and play in the rain. I don't care if your dog acts like it doesn't want to. The only reason why it doesn't want to is because you haven't been out there with the dog. But, you know, if you've got a short-haired dog, put a jacket on the dog. They can enjoy rainy weather. Take a dog for a walk. It's fine, as long as it's not too heavy, it's not thunderstorming. I go outside with my dogs, and they're used to the rain. And that way, you know what else happens when you do that? The dog actually then goes pee and poop when it's raining, as opposed to standing at the door or not going outside at all and peeing and pooping in your house. So, there's that. Yeah, but get your dog used to all weather, especially if it has a thick coat. All right. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. Okay, Jessica says, introducing a small dog to an e-collar. Would training them to go to their bed be a good way to do this? This dog has zero obedience training. I need to start somewhere. You don't want to teach a dog obedience with an e-collar. You want to proof what the dog knows with an e-collar. So teach the dog on leash what you want the dog to do first, and then proof it with the e-collar. Once the dog listens to you the first time on leash, then you can move to the e-collar. But don't teach. The e-collar is not there for teaching. The e-collar is there for proofing what the dog already knows. Very important. You can very much so confuse the hell out of a dog if you're trying to teach with the e-collar. All right? Thanks for your question. All right, since someone else has asked, how's Hops? Hops is also doing well. Hops is a sort of, uh-oh. Is someone in my video? Or did I last it too long? Okay, So Instagram ended my video. I guess I can't go over an hour, or I guess it just ended at an hour. But we'll keep going because we got some questions. All right. Hops is doing good. Well, she also has a little bit of separation anxiety, I would say. She's very pushy on what she wants. You know what I'm saying? And she gets so excited that she loses the ability to use her head. We're working through that as well. But she's a sweet girl overall. All these dogs are sweethearts overall 90% of the time. It's just that other 10% that maybe can get them into trouble. Okay, so we're working through that. And yeah, she's doing great, right on track. Thanks for asking. Okay, Nick says, what does fasting do for a dog in regard to helping with animals' insecurity? Fasting? Are you sure you typed that right? And if you typed that right, where in the hell did you find that? Or what fasting and insecurity? Because I do know that we come across some really ridiculous things. And so I'm not totally surprised, but I don't know, I don't know what fasting would have to do with a dog's insecurity. I do know that food can be a factor in aggression. Because some food is so high in sugar content that it would make your dog more irritable. Right? Going outside. Now, thanks. Just have a second to find my rank up. I didn't mean to be, like that, but it's really fun, man. I mean, it really is. It's enjoyable in my opinion. You know, my dogs can go through marshes. My dogs can go through all sorts of terrain because they've sort of, just, it's really fun to be able to just move outside, walking with your dog, no matter the conditions. Obviously, if it's not thunderstorming and stuff like that, but, getting your dog to be just connected with what it would, the things that it would face if it was wild. We're so pampering to our dogs now. Oh, don't go out in the rain. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, it's snowing. Oh, let's put our jackets on. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes you just gotta let a dog be a dog, man. So, anyway, how would you help with a dog? How would you help a dog with insecurity? The number one thing to fight insecurity in your dog is to evaluate how much respect you have from your dog. Because security comes with the amount of respect, not friendship. People get that wrong. People think, oh, let's make our dog feel safe. Let's give him what it wants, treats and petting. While that may get your dog to not bite you, it will not get your dog to not bite anyone else. Because they are still insecure. Okay, and you're just sort of, making the dog feel safe with you. But respect is the number one thing to get your dog to be open to others and feel safe with others. Because insecurity by itself can be very heavily empathized with. But it's very rare that your dog's behavior is coming from a place of nothing but insecurity. There may be a little bit of sassy behavior. And you want to evaluate that. You want to really figure that out because the bratty side you can really extinguish, and you start to see a difference. Thank you so much for your responses and doing this show. You're welcome, Pam. Thanks for watching. Yes, that's what my trainer here said. Where are you from, buddy? To help with her taking food from other people. Yeah, I wouldn't even worry about that. See, there doesn't have to be food involved. I don't think it's the most efficient way. It is a way, and it will take longer. But the best way is have the dog trust what you say. And then have the people ignore the dog. Listen, if you walked into a room, if a person walked into a room and everyone looked at you and wanted to touch you, you would get very defensive. Like the average person just doesn't want everyone that walks through their, let's take it another level. If someone was to walk through your door and want to touch you because they thought you were cute, things would not go well. And some people, maybe it might go well, but just like some dogs don't like men, some dogs just don't like women, vice versa, whatever it may be. But that's how a dog is taking it, literally. Okay, here comes another stranger. They're going to want to pay attention to me. I don't want their attention. Go away. And the go away is barking, biting, lunging. You see, so there's not really behaviors that we can't relate to on the human side when it comes to dogs and their behavior. It's not some myth. It's very understandable once you break it down. Some dogs don't want to be pet. Some dogs are less affectionate. Some people are less affectionate. Some people don't want to be touched. Some people are more irritable. Some people are more laid back. Some dogs are more laid back. Some dogs are more irritable. All right? Taylor says, she loves the rain and I will tolerate it for her. There you go. Hey, people have fun in the rain, man, It's kind of fun every now and then. What food do you suggest for a large dog? The food that gets your dog's poop to be hard, crumbly, and not smelly. That is the goal that would be a good goal for your dog to achieve. So you may have to look at its poop. You may have to poop track. But the food is right when the poop is I was going to say something that rhymed, but that would be weird. The poop is right, looks right when it's crumbly, sort of like tannish, and it doesn't smell as bad. That's when you know the food is good for your dog. But it's hard to give you a brand because every dog is different. It says thank you. You're welcome. How would you gauge a dog's respect for you? By how many things the dog assumes it can do. Does the dog assume it can jump on your bed and sleep with you? Does the dog assume that it can jump on your couch and sleep with you? Does the dog assume it can go out of the door when you open it? Does the dog get up when you open it? Does the dog counter surf? Does the dog jump on you? Does the dog, let you grab toys from it? Does the dog allow you to trim its nails? Does the dog allow you to give them a bath? Does the dog allow you to groom the dog? Does the dog allow you to grab the collar and walk the dog around the house? Stuff like that. Does the dog assume it's okay to jump on the couch, bark? Does the dog, there's so many things that you can sort of evaluate. Just again, stick with your instincts, people out there. You can tell if a dog is being unfair, right? That's when you want to say, all right, things got to be a little fair here, man. You cannot just do all what you want. It's not cool. Okay. All right, folks. Well, I think we got one more question. Let me just appreciate all you guys watching. It's all right. Here we go. One more. Looking for advice on housekeeping. Excuse me. House breaking a submissive urinator. Okay, when you deal with a submissive urinator, you want to keep the leash on the dog so that your body pressure doesn't intimidate the dog to where it pees. And you don't want to baby talk the dog. Maybe that may be redundant. Maybe that may be too, you know, that may be doing it as well. That may be getting the dog to be intimidated as well. You want to maybe just say nothing, grab the leash, and walk out. But you want to keep the leash on the dog in order so that you can create distance between you and the dog and not have to worry about your body pressure intimidating the urinator. Okay, it's frustrating. I know that one's a frustrating one, but it's a very, you know, with time it will get better. All right, you guys, I'm gonna end it with this. I hope someone out there in my area, or not even in my area, is willing to come sit down and have a conversation with me. Some veterinarian for sure. That would be my number one thing. That would be my number one choice, is to have a veterinarian, because I do think we have some things that we need to talk about, come to grips on. We need to find some common ground with, because again, I do think that there are a lot of dogs. There's a lot of veterinarians that say you should put your dog down. And then if you ask me, I would say, no way, Jose, do not put that dog down. Okay, so I want to, that's sort of the gap that I want to sort of, you know, discuss and discover, so that we can come to grips on, you know, how we determine if a dog should be living or not, because it's very important. So I'll end it with that. I appreciate you guys watching. Please give me a thumbs up or a like. I really appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you guys next week, same time. And come with your questions. Tell your mama, tell your pops, tell your friends, tell your kids to come watch the show.